You can now support Ghost Maps on Patreon. Simply look for We Are HANTU or click the link in the description. Inspired by an account from Z. Ghost Maps. Entry 132. Siglap, Singapore. Jakob and I are at a coffee shop near Siglap Shopping Centre. We've ordered a second round of drinks this evening, a yin yang for myself and a Milo for him. As the drink stall auntie arrives with our order, she apologizes warmly to Jakob for not saying hello earlier. Auntie busy lah, she says, placing the piping hot ceramic cups onto a slightly wobbly wooden table. Turning to me, she says, "Wah, this one business meeting ah." Jakob shakes his head and laughs. "No la auntie," he says. "This one friend only." The auntie chuckles, offers me a grin, then pets Jakob on the back and returns to her stall. "I used to come here after school with my friends sometimes," Jakob says, still smiling. "Can you believe she's been here since before I was born?" Jakob has been a resident of Siglap all his life. This neighborhood is practically a part of his family. He knows its main roads and quiet spots, its best eateries and more havoc bars, its people and its stories. He's already shared one story with me tonight. Now, he's ready to share another. So, I switch my recorder back on and ask him to start from the beginning. Jakob's secondary school was a stone's throw away from Kubo Kasim. "I actually pass the cemetery gates every time I walk to and from school," he says, with a shrug. He never encountered anything on those walks though, even at 7 a.m. as he rushed to make it in time for morning assembly. "Anyway, when you're that age," he says, "homework and teachers can sometimes be way more terrifying than ghosts." In fact, he didn't encounter anything scarier than detention for most of his 4 years there. That's not to say that he didn't hear about certain phenomena within the school's walls. There was a wing on the last floor at the back of the school that was always empty when there weren't classes. The principal forbade students from going up there without a valid reason. A gate was even erected to keep out the more curious and adventurous. Rumors started circulating, but Jakob didn't know anyone who actually experienced anything. "Always a friend's friend," he says. In Jakob's last year though, he came very close to encountering something personally. Jakob and his 3 friends, Emily, Vignesh and Sarah, were in school on a Saturday. They had volunteered to decorate their class for an upcoming festive celebration. "Don't get me wrong," he says. "We weren't exactly teachers' pets. But Vig was grounded, and this was the only way we could hang out that week." Aside from the NPCC group doing their drills on the other side of school, the friends were the only ones there. They arrived at around 2 p.m., choosing to spend their Saturday morning sleeping in. "It was actually a really great afternoon," Jakob says. "I don't know what it was that made it so special, even now. Maybe it was just being there on our own and by choice, like we were in charge of our lives for the first time." He chuckles, then says, "Or maybe it's just rose-tinted glasses, right?" The 4 friends took their time to put up the decorations, spending most of the afternoon just hanging out. By the time they were done, the sun was starting to set. It was around this time when Emily brought up another legend heard around the school. There's a ghost girl in the last classroom at the end of the corridor upstairs, Emily told her friends as they packed up. The girl had been spotted, as always, by a friend of a friend at night during in-school camps. The story went that she was heartbroken after her boyfriend left her. So heartbroken, in fact, that she took her own life by throwing herself down the stairs. Of course, no one knew who this girl was or could verify that this even happened. Vignesh wanted to go exploring and see if we could catch a glimpse of the girl, Jakob says. I didn't want to. Like I've said before, I don't come from a terribly pantang family, but we had such a good afternoon. Jakob says that dwelling on a tragedy, real or made up, seemed like an awfully down note to end their day. Still, Emily and Sarah seemed game, and he didn't want to be a wet blanket. So, before the gates closed for the night, they headed up a flight of stairs to the floor above. There was a spark of excitement in the air, a thrill that filled all of them, even Jakob, for all his hesitance. As they stood in front of the supposedly haunted classroom, what struck him first was how peaceful it looked. The setting sun bathed the room in milky pink hue. The shadows cast didn't feel like they hid something sinister, but that they offered the comfort of solitude. Jakob felt relieved. No supernatural creatures or spirits jumped out of any corners to ruin this lovely day. After 5 minutes, Vignesh seemed satisfied that they wouldn't be catching sight of any specters. "Wanna grab dinner?" he said, gesturing for the four to take their leave. The side gate was closed, so Jakob and his friends had to leave via the main gate instead. This route took them past their classroom's block. They were approaching the main gate, discussing whether to go to the nearby fast food place or this very coffee shop. When, suddenly, Sarah stopped. The remaining 3 friends turned around and they realized that she wasn't with them. Sarah was staring at where their classroom's windows were. Jakob, Emily, and Vignesh looked up to see what had her enthralled. There, at their classroom's window, was a black shape. It looked like a shadow, but I couldn't tell what it was a shadow of, Jakob says. I didn't know about the rest, but I was more confused than scared. The shape seemed to be changing slowly, but the 4 friends weren't sure if this was just a trick of the evening light. Jakob's fascination, however, was suddenly shattered, and he heard Sarah whisper something. Without taking his attention off the windows, he asked Sarah to repeat what she had said. Louder, but still under her breath, almost like a hiss. Sarah said one word. A single word that caught the attention of all 3 of her friends. They turned towards her to see that she looked terrified. Her eyes still locked on the shadow. "Run," she said. The friends sprinted up towards the main entrance, out the gate and on until they passed Kubo Kasim's gates. finally slowing down to catch their breath, Jakob, Emily, and Vignesh asked Sarah what she saw. She waved them off and told them to wait till they had sat down to eat. When they reached this coffee shop, Sarah was clearly still shaken, but she had composed herself enough. She asked the others what they had seen first. The other three agreed that they saw a strange shadow that seemed to be changing in shape, but that was it. Sarah told them that she saw that too, until it transformed into something else. To her, the black shape eventually settled to a vaguely human form. The darkness then parted, transforming into long, flowing black hair with a person beneath it. A woman dressed in all white. We all just stared at her, speechless, Jakob says. Sarah asked again if anyone else saw this woman. When the other three agreed that she was the only one, she looked concerned. I found out later that for the whole week after, Sarah was plagued by nightmares, Jakob tells me. The first 2 nights, she just relived that evening's events, staring up at the window and sprinting out the gate. However, for the rest of that week, Sarah would dream that the woman in the classroom made her way down to where they were and started chasing them. Her blood-curdling, mocking laughter echoing in Sarah's mind even after she had woken up. By the following Sunday, her parents had decided that she needed help. Unlike my family, Sarah's was more inclined to believe in the supernatural, Jakob says. She never told me what exactly they did, but I've heard rumors that a Bomo was involved. However, they resolved the matter. After that week, Sarah's nightmares stopped, and the friends never spoke about what happened again that year. We still catch up every once in a while, Jakob says. We talk about what happened, of course, and even Sarah seems able to look back on it now. I asked Jakob why he thinks the 4 of them can reminisce about that incident without awakening much trauma. Honestly, he says, I genuinely think that the beauty of that afternoon overpowers the darkness that came after. I tell him it's a nice sentiment as he waves the drink stall auntie back over. If you want to discover more of Southeast Asia's other side, subscribe now and follow us on social media. You can also be one of our supporters on Patreon. Look for We Are HANTU or click the links in the description. Ghost Maps is a HANTU production created by Kyle Ong and Wayne Ray, with art direction by Jolene Lim, and recorded on Audio Technica mics.